We talk about the Ole Miss historic win in the Sugar Bowl with John Fourcade and Ole Miss legend. Talk about the Fiesta Bowl a little bit as well. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I am your host, Stephen Willis. I spent 10 years working in the national media with Yahoo Sports, and I'm a former Ole Miss staff member. This is the most watched Ole Miss podcast out there, and that is all because of you. Thank you very much for that. On today's show, we're going to talk about Ole Miss beating Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, looking back one last time before we move on to Fiesta Bowl topics, and we'll talk about the Fiesta Bowl and Miami's rush and all of that as well. We're going to celebrate a little bit. We're going to prepare for the semifinals, and we'll see exactly what happens with John, because I'm sure he is very fired up about what happened. All right, John, this Sugar Bowl, it was kind of a special moment for Ole Miss. It was a special moment for the 85-year-old man that went through a lot of stuff, and it was a special moment for the 10-year-old that was in the Superdome that day.
I tell you, I don't care if you're 8 to 80, dumb and crazy, and that was a heck of a game. The atmosphere was unbelievable in the city, nothing but red. It was one game that, man, it came down to the very end. I mean, obviously, you know, with 6 seconds or whatever, 9 seconds left, when the young man kicked the field goal to put them ahead. I mean, you can go all through this game, Stephen, and look at some of the good points and bad points, but all in reality, the better team won this game. The team that I thought was way prepared. And, you know, it came to bite the Georgia Bulldogs in the rear was the Lane Kiffin, what do you want to call it, mystique of let's go for it on fourth down. Let's go for it on fourth down. And the 3 times they went for it on fourth down, you got it done so-so, but it cost you one other time. And then I couldn't believe what they did on the goal line, throwing the pass with a few seconds, maybe play for the but then again, me as a coach, I would have thrown a pass. I want to win the game, go up by 4 points, then Ole Miss has scored a touchdown. I don't want to kick a field goal. Hopefully that Ole Miss don't get a chance to kick a field goal to win the game or tie to go to overtime. There's so much in that game right there, but I think the big factor was that Ole Miss played 60 minutes of football. Never got down. I told everybody that I was with, if they're down 10 or under, Ole Miss has got a great shot. If they're 14 points down, then it might be a different story. But, boy, they played 60 minutes, Stephen. It was one fantastic game.
Yeah, one thing's for certain after that game is Ole Miss might have the best field goal kicker in the country.
I don't know much about the young man. I mean, we saw games this year. Who pays attention to kickers? They only come in either to win it or lose it. They're very seldom. Thank God, because the Monday night game was horrendous watching those 2 kickers for Baltimore and Pittsburgh. But let's be honest, they do have a great kicker, and I'm now. Pete knows. Hey, we can kick field goals and win football games. I don't know if that'll happen with Lane on some of the stuff in the game, but they kick field goals. They want to kick. You kick them from 57 yards out and under. That's fantastic in college football. You got a kicker, and the good thing that helped, nobody realizes, kicking in the dome, so much easier than kicking outdoors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one thing you notice, even outdoors, he kicks the ball. He was making field goals right down the middle all season. So I imagine in the dome, I mean, he had it going on. It was perfect kicking conditions. And did you see that Georgia tried the Music City Miracle Ole Miss at the end?
I saw that. Yeah. And you got to try something. you got to try something. And it was never going to work. It's totally different. And, I mean, if you had the over and, you were on a borderline, but that game went well over. But, yeah, it was funny to watch it, but you got to try something. I mean, you can't kick a long field goal from that far out.
Yeah, and the news came out today that Trinidad Chambliss re-signed with Ole Miss. So if he gets his waiver for the 6th year, he will be back at Ole Miss, and he will likely be the favorite for the Heisman Trophy. Because
I heard Lacy signed a 1-year extension as well.
I've heard rumor on that, but I haven't heard it confirmed. I mean, it's definitely trending that direction to the point where I believe it was Chuck Rounsaville at the Ole Miss Spirit talking about Lane Kiffin just being absolutely beside himself because he thought he had that.
Well, you know what? The grass ain't greener on the other side unless you see what the grass looks like. You can't anticipate and think that someone's going to automatically come to you. I mean, the kid Chambliss, look, I don't know if he's going to get the extra year. I hear that the people from Ferris are the ones holding this up. There's a lot of things behind closed doors I don't know anything about. I mean, you start giving guys 6 or 7 years of playing college football. Look, I mean, I'll say this. He'll make more money coming back than he was because he's not going to be drafted in the NFL as a top-notch quarterback. He'll get peanuts compared to what he's going to get at Ole Miss, a couple of $1 million, whatever it may be, and the running back as well. But we'll see. But right now, that's you got a game Thursday night. Take care of your business here, and then then you get to you win it. You go to Miami, and then you worry about coming back and see what Ole Miss and the NCAA will do.
It was kind of cathartic to see Trinidad Chambliss channel Archie Manning, that little 3-play sequence with the scrambling and all of that. I mean, it was almost fitting that happened on that field.
Well, yeah, I tried that one time against Tulane. I think I lost about 40 yards, and we didn't get to pick up the first down. But yeah, I watched that, and all I could think about was, wow, I remember doing something like that. Then it hit me that I seen Archie do something like that, reverse the field, come back, do everything. But that's the player in him. He's got that ability to do those things, and that's why college quarterbacks, if you got some legs and you could use some things with it, you could sustain a play and prolong that play. And that's just what he had to do, and he did it. But he played well all night long. And look, I'm gonna give the Stockton kid, Hunter Stockton. The kid played well. He got the heck beat out of him, and he kept fighting. He never quit, and that guy played miraculously as well. But I didn't realize the difference in yardage. The Stockton kid barely had 200, and Chambliss had well over 300. So it just goes to show you 60 minutes of football, and someone's got to win and someone's got to lose.
Yeah, it should be quite interesting. When we come back with John Fourcade, we are going to talk about what is ahead for the Ole Miss Rebels. Should be interesting, but we'll talk about that next on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before games tip off, FanDuel gives fans new ways to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. The NBA Happy Hour is your official NBA pregame with a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app right before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern time, well, that's become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new, boost, bonuses, surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect. Right before the games, right before the weekend starts, it adds an extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check out the FanDuel app to see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour. Every Friday from 6 to 7:30 Eastern time, a little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That is NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Do us a favor, like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Subscribe to the podcast on whichever audio podcast you're listening to, and give it a 5-star review. It costs absolutely nothing, but it helps keeps all of this free. Thank you for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Ole Miss with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more. All for just $5 per month or $50 per year. Go to lockedonolemiss.supercast.com or check out the link in the show notes down below to learn more. All right, John. One thing that is interesting about this Fiesta Bowl to me, I think that Miami is a very similar version of what Georgia is. I think Miami's better at getting after the quarterback than Georgia was.
Yeah, I think Miami has a little bit better defense than the Georgia Bulldogs. The Bulldogs have a different core of players than they usually have on defense over the years, but they got a couple of guys that stood out. Miami's got a few more guys that definitely stand out defensively, but I don't think Miami's playing the quarterback that you're going to see with Chambliss because, Miami played, Texas A&M. That quarterback is not Chambliss. He doesn't throw like Chambliss. He doesn't run like Chambliss. He's a good, decent, average quarterback. And then, when they beat Ohio State, another scenario there. Ohio State's quarterback was great against those teams they played early in the year, but when you played a stiffer competition, the kid didn't show up against Indiana, and he sure didn't show up against Miami. And that's the big difference. Miami's going to face a quarterback that's capable of running and throwing the football with a good running game, and nobody gives credit to the Ole Miss offensive line. They've played solid football the last couple of weeks. Now, let's flip it over to the defensive side. Miami's offense, I don't really think all as impressive as maybe Georgia or as maybe someone else, but because Carson Beck can give a game away with the best of them. He's known to throw the ball in triple coverage, double coverage. He didn't play great against Ohio State, but he did enough to help them win. I truly believe Ole Miss defense, and they shocked me as good as that defense. Look, they scored some points in this game, Georgia, but that's the SEC. The guys are going to score. I like the defense that Pete has done with that team this season. They've gotten better in the last 2 or 3 weeks of the season, the State game, the Tulane game, and the Georgia game when it counted. So don't underestimate that defense of Ole Miss going against Miami's offense. I like what I saw in the Georgia game defensive-wise, and I always love the offense. I think it's still clicking like the plane was there. So, we got to give Charlie Weiss Jr. some credit.
Yeah, it's I feel really good about this matchup, almost to the point where it's scary for me. Because you're like, well, it's the semifinals. It's the national semifinals. You shouldn't feel this good. But you have to realize Ole Miss is going to be wearing the colored jersey in that game, which means they're the higher seeded team.
They're the home team. They get the dark jersey.
Yeah, the dark jersey, and they're the underdog by 3.5 points to Miami.
Well, I mean, that's that's odd makers. That's how they pull it. They want to do it, but they were the underdog against Georgia, So it was they had to go play a game that it was 50-50 in the stands. The only thing I hate this is that the game's way over in Phoenix, and it's so hard for people to package up money to go to the Sugar Bowl. Now you want to package up money and go see them in Phoenix. And if they win, you got to package up money and you got to go to Miami. The NCAA has to figure this out, because when I saw that Orange Bowl with like half empty seats for the Ohio State, was it the Ohio State? No, it was Ohio State.
Oregon and Texas.
Oregon and Texas Tech. Right, correct. That was a joke there. I mean, you got to figure this out and start these bye weeks, and you don't get to play for another 20-something days or almost a month after the season ends. It's costing teams. Just keep the playoffs rolling. They got to get rid of the conference championship game and start the playoff games right after right when that should be going. And let's work its way down and start playing teams. Let them play their home games. And then when you get to this point right now, last week that could have been your 4 teams in there to get to the final 2, because it's getting dragged on. And I remember when I was playing, they all complained about, oh man, the kids, student athletes, we got to go to class. You think they're worried about that now? All the money they got going on right now, they do not need to be playing, 3.5 weeks. You got to buy, guys get rested up. It's hard. It's hard. But look, we're all excited. As soon as they won the game the other night, I was checking airfares and stuff. And I went, woo, wow. I don't think I'm going to go there. I'll catch it. So we booked rooms in Florida already. We got them booked in Miami. We're booked. We're ready to roll.
Okay. I will say this. If Ole Miss beats Miami, if it get past that, we're not overlooking. We're just talking about it. I am working already to try and get a credential from my parent company and all that to go down there and cover that. We got to get together and have a beer if that happens, though.
Oh, there's no doubt. You should be, Radio Row. You should be able to get on Radio Row for that. You're going to be down there. I'm there. Shoot, I'll be there. You can count that. You can put that in writing. We're there. We already got our rooms blocked off, and just a matter of them getting there.
Yeah, it should be really, really interesting. All right, when we come back, we will put the finishing touches on this Fiesta Bowl with the legend John Fourcade. I'm Stephen Willis, and this is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. There's nothing like college football season, tailgates, packed stadiums, and being right in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, that used to be a really frustrating thing with long queues, logins, and prices that jump at checkout. That is why Game Time is giving the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experience in just a few taps. The app is incredibly easy to use. I went from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes. Knowing prices include all the fees up front makes the whole process stress-free. So you can take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. All right, John. I mentioned that Miami's the favorite by 3.5. I mean, how do you see this game going?
I said the last week's game, I said if Ole Miss is 10 and under at halftime, then they're still in this football game. If they're down 14, it's going to be a battle to get back into it. I'm going to say the same thing here. Ole Miss is one that I don't know what they can do from being down a lot because we haven't really seen that much this year. I like what I saw of them. I think Miami's got their pluses on the defensive side of football. I think Ole Miss has played enough defensive teams in the SEC this year that it doesn't faze them. I think now that with the Ole Miss's defense shown that they can do things now, I truly believe Ole Miss's defense is going to stop and shut down Miami. Because look, they didn't do anything against Ohio State, scored with 17 points or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. Same thing against A&M. They scored 10. So let's be honest here. If Ole Miss can go in this football game and Miami scores 17 or under 20, Ole Miss is going to win this game.
Yeah, it's really interesting. If Ole Miss gets to 30, which they've gotten to 30 against Oklahoma, which that defensive line for Oklahoma, I think that's at least comparable to what Miami has. And then they scored 30 twice against Georgia. We all know Kirby Smart. Miami's going to be good, but if Ole Miss gets to 30 against Miami, it's over, right?
Oh, I would think that if Ole Miss can get 30 points on Miami or anybody, they're either going to win the ball game or it's going to come down to a field goal toward the end or whatever it may be. But it depends if they jump out on them. And I think the shoe's on the other foot here. If Ole Miss gets up 14 on Miami, then Miami has to depend on Carson Beck to get them back in the game throwing the football. Then you can waylay up your big lineman that you have, and Pete's going to do something defensive-wise. But that's the key. Miami is known to put the ball on the ground. A fumble here, a pick there. If they can do that, they're going to be in this game, Ole Miss, all the way till the end. They cannot let Miami's defense convert fumbles or picks and score. That's how they got in the game. That's how they beat Ohio State, with a pick. So I'm looking at it this way. I think it's going to be a game that's going to be in the low 30s, in the high 20s, and I think Ole Miss comes out on this. I'm dead beat on this. This is everything's. What do you say? Look at a crystal ball. It says Ole Miss National Championship.
Yeah, and that's incredibly weird to think about. The game that has to happen, but it genuinely feels like this time next week we could be in Miami.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And this would be a story for the ages and the years. And how weird would that be that you lose your head coach? And you got your interim coach who now is your head coach, and he's running the show, and you got a half-staff operation going with some of the guys that are coaching on the staff, that half of them on the offensive side of the ball are going to LSU. And look, they've been through so much right now. I think the cards are just lining up, and let's go get it. I mean, they got their heads on right, and that's the big key. They're not letting all this get to them. You'd have thought maybe getting into the playoff game they had, and then maybe beating Tulane. Now they're beating Georgia. They're like, hey, man, this is just we're 2 games away from what we started the season wanting to do.
Yeah, really, really interesting stuff. Couple of stats before we get out of here. First of all, Pete Golding is tied for 3rd in the SEC in playoff wins now, behind Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. So he's tied for 3rd with Steve Sarkisian. And also, Ole Miss has a winning record against Kirby Smart with 3 different head coaches getting the wins for the Ole Miss Rebels.
Well, let's just hope now that Pete Golding and Ole Miss has a better coaching record against the Miami Hurricanes, and he can go, 3-0 in his playoff stretch, and that's all that matters. I don't think anybody's worried about the stats. Those guys are focused in. They know nobody depended on them. Nobody even thought they'd be in this situation. They thought they'd all fold up like a cheap suit when Lane left them. They thought they'd be down in the dumps. They knew they'd be Tulane, the media, the people, but they thought that Georgia would steamroll them. Well, guess what? You got to play the football game, and the Rebels did.
All right, John. Hopefully I will see you down in Miami, but Ole Miss has to handle some business in the Fiesta Bowl. What's your plans for the game, man?
We're going to chill out at the house this time. I'm not going to a fancy restaurant we went to. I'm going to chill at the house, relax, because, if I throw something at the TV, at least I'm breaking my own TV. But, no, I'm going to be at the house and just enjoying it there and Thursday night and having a blast watching football.
All right, John. We'll talk to you later, buddy. Talk
All
to
right,
you next.
Steven. All right, buddy. Take care.
All right. Thanks again for tuning into the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Tomorrow's show, we're going to talk about Trinidad Chambliss and Kewan Lacy, very re-signing NIL specific show. That'll be tomorrow. So make sure you subscribe so you can get all the latest episodes. We're on all the social channels, so check that out as well. And did Locked On Ole Miss make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media and earn a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we will drop you the code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we're going to send you out to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And on audio, make sure you check out Locked On SEC and Locked On College Football. They do a great job. We're just hours and days away from the biggest game in Ole Miss program history. Hotty toddy, everybody. And we're going to have a good time. We're ready for it. Take care, everybody.